Permission is granted by the creator to copy and freely
Yeah, okay, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, hi, I'm astrologer Matthew Curry. There was very recently an anonymous video posted on YouTube taking a swing at me. Well, I think it was from GianPaolo DiCocco, but we can't tell for sure.
He is widely regarded as one of the top astrologers on YouTube today with highly satisfied clientele.
Yeah, okay, that is totally GianPaolo DiCocco. Anyway, today we're going to have some fun at GianPaolo's expense because, among other things, we're going to be demonstrating that he doesn't know even the basics of astrology. I'm going to go over his interpretation of my chart. Although, as you will soon learn, that's not even my chart.
In this post, he remarks how GianPaolo should not have asked for the birth charts of victims of crimes to see if their death lined up with their birth charts. This is perfectly legitimate to do, as it helps provide closure for suffering families.
The link to my actual blog entry is in the description below, and you can go there and look for yourself and see whether or not I ever mentioned GianPaolo by name, and you can decide for yourself whether or not contacting family members of the victims of the Las Vegas shooting is a good and ethical idea. And also, while you're at it, run down there and read the comments and look at the comment GianPaolo made by himself claiming to be someone else.
With Curry having a seriously afflicted sun in Sagittarius, it's no wonder that he has problems with ethics and cannot determine what's ethical and what's not. His blog gets no comments or views whatsoever, and he attacks GianPaolo DiCocco just to get fame and attention for himself.
Getting famous by dissing GianPaolo. Yeah, okay, sure. Oh, and next time you're on Facebook, drop by the Matthew Curry Astrologer page. It's where all the comments happen.
Curry's readings predominantly consist of providing sexual astrology advice for clients.
Actually, no I don't, and I've put the link down there so you can go read the article for yourself and see whether or not I'm some kind of rampaging pervert, or whether or not GianPaolo DiCocco just can't read.
Here is one example of a reading he did whereby he advises the client to get into an orgy cult. This can be found in an online article by Elite Daily. Predicting that somebody would get into an orgy cult is not only bad astrology, but also highly indicative of his own sexual inadequacy.
Well, yes, that would be bad astrology, but since that's not what I actually said, who's got the sexual inadequacy hang up here?
Here is the partial birth chart of Ronald Curry. It is partial because he is completely ashamed to reveal his own chart to the public. Why? Because it is one hell of a disgusting chart.
Now, here's where the fun is really gonna start, because up till this point, all we've really demonstrated is that GianPaolo DiCocco is some kind of terrible jack-off. But now we're going to dive into how bad an astrologer he actually is. Pay attention now, this is gonna be fun!
Here is the full chart. You will find that this chart has the same exact placements as the partial chart on Curry's Twitter page.
Actually, no, it doesn't have exactly the same placements as the chart I posted on Twitter. But hey, you know what? I've learned something new today. Apparently, I was actually born in Arizona. So, let's learn a little about Arizona, the land of my birth. Welcome to Arizona, shining jewel of the American Southwest. You and your family will find it's a place of wonder and amazement, where the cowboy culture of the old American West blends harmoniously with the traditions of the Mexican people. But there's more to Arizona than just people. There's also some of nature's most majestic sights, the Grand Canyon, the Mojave Desert. And if you love nature, you'll love our wildlife, where you'll get to see armadillo, the intimidating rattlesnake, and of course, the world-famous roadrunner. You'll also thrill to the sight of the Navajo Indians, who to this day continue to live in their exciting and vibrant culture. So come to Arizona for the adventure of a lifetime, unless you're GianPaolo DiCocco, in which case, f*** off, you're an idiot.
Besides, who can even bear to look at this face during a one-on-one counseling session? You would sooner drop dead than receive therapy from him. We can clearly see how he is a failed astrologer. First, his 11th house of astrology ruler Venus is terribly afflicted. It is semi-squaring the Sun and sesquiquadrating Uranus, the very ruler of astrology itself. When the house of astrology ruler is badly afflicting the ruler of astrology itself, This is the first sign of an inept and incompetent astrologer. The second sign is how badly afflicted his Uranus is, and remember that Uranus is the ultimate ruler of astrology.
Okay, wait a second. Two minor negative aspects doesn't make a planet seriously afflicted. Second, you're not counting the sextile to Mercury or the South Node. Also, the 11th house and or Venus don't rule astrology, but at least you came close to being right with Uranus.
Curry's Uranus is squaring the Sun, so it is receiving negative solar energy. Uranus is also involved in T-squares involving Saturn, the Sun, and Jupiter. The Uranus conjunction to Pluto, planet of death, adds icing on the cake for a dead astrology career.
Also, given how hard it is to get a paying gig writing about astrology for the internet, and given that I have two of those, I'm not sure we're talking about the same thing when we're saying failed astrologer.
And last but not least, his second house of money ruler the Sun is very badly afflicted. It is making nothing but tense aspects in his birth chart. Therefore, this man is destined to not be financially successful at all. His failed book sales testify to this fact, which has only hurt his career.
Wait, you know how well my book sells? 'Cause that's funny, I have a hard time getting that information out of my publisher. Where would you have seen that?
Speaking of his career, his midheaven is in Aries, which has nothing to do with astrology at all.
So, if you have an Aries midheaven, give up on ever being an astrologer. Okay. Actually, my midheaven isn't in Aries, and anyone with some basic astrological knowledge would have been able to figure that out from the picture posted on my Twitter page, but don't worry, we're getting to that.
His midheaven ruler Mars is in the 7th house in Capricorn, again having nothing to do with astrology. The dispositor of his Mars in Capricorn is Saturn, which is in Pisces in his 9th house. Saturn is conjunct Chiron, indicating a wound being dealt to his career dispositor, and Saturn is opposing Uranus, ruler of astrology.
That's interesting because most astrologers would look at that and say something like, hey, do you work as a counselor or a psychotherapist or, I don't know, maybe an astrologer?
Curry claims to have been a counselor for approximately 20 years. How can this man possibly help people with Mars, the planet of attack, strongly conjunct his 7th house of relationships and other people?
Yeah, I'm glad you managed to find my bio, but that's not what it says.
His Mars is also opposing the Moon, his chart ruler and the very ruler of counseling itself. With him being a rising Cancer and the Moon strongly conjunct the ascendant, this is indicative of having serious mommy issues, which prompted him to become a counselor.
Yeah, okay, I admit it. My financial situation is so bad that I have to live in the spare room at my mom's house. Oh, wait, that's not me. That's GianPaolo DiCocco.
He needed to heal his own mommy issues and problems. So there is every indication here that he engages in homosexual behavior.
Oh, okay. First of all, whether or not someone is gay shouldn't matter. Secondly, any astrologer can tell you that spotting whether or not someone is gay in a chart is a lot more difficult than that. And finally, my two ex-wives have plenty of complaints about me, but none of them involve my sexual orientation.
Neptune in his 5th house is also a strong predisposing factor to homosexuality, as is the ruler of his 12th house in the 5th. He also has Aquarius, which is ruled by Uranus, on his 8th house cusp of taboo sex.
Okay, so we've established that GianPaolo really isn't very good at reading a birth chart. But can we further demonstrate that he's lacking in some very basic astrological knowledge? We can. Let's take a look at that partial birth chart of mine from the banner on my Twitter account. This originally came to his attention last fall when I wrote that Astrology and Ethics blog entry. At that time, he got frustrated because he couldn't see my birth chart and thus couldn't find a way to pick on me. It's taken him this long to reconstruct my birth chart, and he's done so badly, and I can demonstrate. As a matter of fact, I can demonstrate so simply that even if you don't know much about astrology, you'll be able to see the very fundamental mistake he made when he was trying to assemble my birth chart. Take a look at this. Here's what you can see. Moon is in Cancer on the ascendant. You can tell that Mars in Capricorn is opposite that. Now, if you look at the size of the houses, you can tell that this is not equal houses or whole sign houses. It's one of the systems that uses the midheaven as the beginning of the 10th house, most likely Placidus. We can also see that there are two planets fairly close to each other in Virgo, and any proper astrologer knows that people born in the middle of the 60s have a Uranus-Pluto conjunction in Virgo. Now, do you see that thicker line where the 4th house cusp starts? That's what's called the IC. That's the part of the chart that is always exactly opposite the MC, the midheaven, where the 10th house starts. That's going to be important in a minute. Just bear with me, though. So we've established that there's a conjunction in Virgo, and any astrologer knows that a person born into my age group has the Uranus-Pluto conjunction there. Furthermore, even though you can't tell it's Neptune, you can tell there's a placement in Scorpio. And of course, you can tell my sun is at about 18 degrees Sagittarius. So any proper astrologer would be able to look up when, during the mid-60s, was Mars in Capricorn. And of those times, when was the sun at around 18 degrees Sagittarius? So we quickly established that I was born somewhere between December 9th and 11th, and that it was somewhere between, let's say, 63 and 66. So any halfways qualified astrologer would know to go to their ephemeris, look between 63 and 68, find out when, during those times, Mars was in Capricorn in around December 9th or 11th on any given year. This only gives you one possible answer, 1965. From there, you can pretty much sort out what time of day I was born at based on the position of the moon and its placement on the ascendant. And we know that the midheaven is in Pisces because it's opposite the IC, which is in Virgo. Now, pop quiz, kids. What sign is opposite Virgo? That's right, it's not Aries, it's Pisces. The correct answer was Pisces. As a matter of fact, many of you who aren't full-time astrologers, who are just fans of astrology, could have figured that out on your own. GianPaolo, though, he didn't. Why is that? Is it possible that he really doesn't know anything about astrology unless he's reading directly out of a book or off of a software printout? Well, you be the judge. And finally, for all those of you who have waited patiently for the end of the video, here is my proper and official birth chart. One thing though, you'll notice that I blacked out the time and place of birth, and I did that because I know it's going to drive GianPaolo crazy.